Okay, so let's jump right in. For this deep dive, we're looking at universal basic income, but specifically through the lens of AI and automation. And our mission today is to really get into a pretty provocative argument we found in the source material. The idea that UBI, while it might help with poverty in the short term, could, quietly damage the very things that hold society together: effort, responsibility, a sense of belonging.
It's a huge conversation to be having right now. And you're right, UBI as a concept, it's not new. But the AI context just changes the entire game. I mean, this isn't about factory jobs anymore. We are seeing AI models begin to disrupt white-collar, work legal, admin, customer service. The speed and the visibility of it, that's what's driving this huge renewed interest.
Right. So let's start with the strongest case for it, the ethical one. If whole job categories are just going to, well, vanish, we can't just let millions of people have zero income. It's a moral non-starter.
Absolutely. You have to start there. But what's so interesting in the sources is how quickly they challenge the next assumption, which is the funding. They call it a fiscal mountain. There's this story we tell that AI will pay for it. But that's kind of backwards. Think about it. Our tax systems are built on labor, payroll taxes, income taxes. If that labor base shrinks, so does the money coming in.
So you'd need a massive tax on capital or wealth to even begin to fund it.
Exactly. And the political will for that has historically been, let's say, weak. And that leads to the other side of the coin, beyond the arithmetic, the human cost. The sources really hammer this point, that we seem to be hardwired for purpose, for contribution.
So the big question is, if you detach income from work entirely, do you really get this, peaceful society of leisure? Or do you just get a society with rising anxiety, maybe addiction, anger?
That's the core risk they identify. That work, or at least structured contribution, gives our lives a framework, a connection to community. And if you remove that permanently on a mass scale, you might be creating a social problem much deeper than just unemployment.
Which brings us to what I thought was the most damning phrase in the material, the idea that UBI could function as a political sedative. A sedative? I mean, that's a really strong charge.
It is, and it ties directly into power. The argument is, if a basic income is the only solution on the table, we all stop asking the much harder questions.
Like what?
Like, who actually owns the platforms? Who
Yeah.
owns the data, the algorithms that are generating all this new wealth? The fear is that a small monthly payment becomes this sort of easy out, a way to, and this is a quote, pay people to stay quiet, while all that value just keeps flowing upwards to a tiny group of owners.
So it's not a new social contract, it's just managing the fallout of the old
It
one.
just preserves the current power structure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It dulls the momentum for any real structural change.
Okay, so if we're saying that path leads to, well, to mass idleness and political pacification, what are the alternatives? The sources must suggest something.
They do, and it's a total shift in focus. Away from managing idleness and toward investing in meaningful activity. The material points to massive investment in sectors where humans are, frankly, irreplaceable.
You mean things like elder care, mental health support, education?
Precisely. Also things like community safety, cultural work, environmental restoration, areas where empathy and complex human interaction are the entire point. It's about creating new ways for people to contribute, not paying them to step aside.
And I found the idea of alternative income floors really fascinating. So instead of these unconditional lifelong payments, you could have guarantees that are linked to, well, active participation.
That's it. So the support is there, but it's connected to something. Maybe you're in a training program where you're doing credited caregiving for a family member or involved in a community project. The income support is still there, but it keeps that rope intact, the one connecting effort and income.
So wrapping this up, the core takeaway seems to be, yes, money absolutely matters. We can't let people fall into destitution, but meaning, it seems, matters even more.
That's the balance. The sources are really a warning against solving one problem by creating a much bigger one.
Which leaves us and you with a final thought to chew on. If we just accept that AI is going to displace a huge amount of labor, the real design challenge isn't about mailing checks, it's this. How do we build a system that keeps millions of people in the story as active participants and not just as, well, spectators on a stipend?